Hello, this is the 26th lecture on Revelation and World History. We have completed chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the 12 chapters. Following the identification of the first beast in Revelation chapter 13, we have also identified the identity of the second beast. We have identified the actual historical figure, whose name, the number 666, matches the second beast. Not only does the number match the name, but we have historically proven that the beast's identity matches the prophetic description. Understanding the identities of the two beasts alone does not guarantee complete answers to the book of Revelation. A true answer lies in the fact that the history of not only the core of a specific nation, but also its periphery must be consistent. In this lecture, we will examine the fact that the 144,000 actually appear in history. Revelation and World History, Chapter 4, Section 2. The 144,000 and the Korean Church, Part 1. The establishment of the Presbyterian Church of Korea. The foundation of the Presbyterian Church in Korea was laid in 1876. When Yi Eung Chan was baptized in Manchuria and began translating the Bible. However, its missionary history began in September 1884. When Allen, a medical missionary from the American Northern Presbyterian Church, arrived in Incheon. The official beginning of the Presbyterian Church in Korea was in April 1885. With the arrival of American Presbyterian missionary Horace Grant Underwood in April 1885. After that, missionaries such as Samuel Moffat, Reynolds, and Davis continued to arrive in Korea. In Wonhap Province, a Korean-centered church had already been established in 1884. In 1893, the Southern and Northern Presbyterian missions joined forces to form the Missionary Council. That's how the Korean Presbyterian Church's organizational structure was established. In 1901, the Missionary Council, incorporating Korean representatives, formed the Joseon Presbyterian Council. A consultative body was established between Koreans and missionaries. And a seminary was established to train ministers. On September 17, 1907, the Joseon Presbytery of the Presbyterian Church was established in Pyongyang. The seminary produced its first graduating class of 7, who were ordained as pastors. The graduates were sent as missionaries to places like Jeju Island and Vladivostok, where they evangelized among Koreans. On September 1, 1912, the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of Korea was organized in Pyongyang. The era of the Presbyterian Church of Korea has truly begun. Referenced from the Pascal Encyclopedia, Presbyterian Church of Korea. Catholicism first arrived on the Korean peninsula in the late 18th century. About 100 years later, Christianity arrived. After that, missionary work developed during the Japanese colonial period. Among Korean Christians, the Presbyterian Church is the largest. The numbers presented in the Book of Revelation are related to the number of Presbyterian members. This does not mean that the Presbyterian Church is the only denomination recognized by God. God has established a plan to spread His will throughout the world, and He has chosen a nation to carry out that plan. Moreover, God has chosen specific individuals and groups within that plan to carry it out. Through Him, God unfolds His will in the human world. God chose the Jews to write the Bible, and from their lineage, Jesus Christ was born. However, this does not mean that the Jews are the only people God chose. God simply chose one nation from among mankind to reveal His plan. The Bible and the prophetic books were written in Palestine and its surroundings. However, the place where these prophecies are fulfilled is the Korean Peninsula and its surroundings. The connection between the number of Presbyterian members in the Korean Church and the number of 144,000 mentioned in the Book of Revelation is due to the close connection between this number and Pyongyang, the historical site of the fulfillment of the prophecy. Pyongyang is where the first Presbyterian seminary was established. It is also the place where the first Korean Presbyterian pastor was produced. And the place where the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of Korea was first organized was also Pyongyang. Pyongyang is also the seat of power for Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, corresponding to the number 666. Pyongyang was also the place where the Shrine Visit resolution was passed under pressure from the Japanese Empire. The 144,000 does not mean that the total number of those saved is only 144,000. This means that, at some point during a specific period, during the fulfillment of the prophecy in the Book of Revelation, there will be 144,000 suffering Christians. The passage in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, and after them came a great multitude that no one could count, clearly demonstrates that the 144,000 does not refer to the total number of those saved. The number of Presbyterians in Korea exceeded 144,000 in 1911. According to the minutes of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of Korea, the number of Presbyterians in 1911 was 144,261. However, the following year, in 1912, that number decreased to 127,228. Reference was made to Volume 1 of History of Korean Christianity, published by the Korean Christian History Research Association. This was because the Japanese government fabricated the attempted assassination of Governor General Terauchi, also known as the 105 Incident, and began arresting those involved in September 1911. This marked the beginning of the Japanese colonial rule's full-scale suppression of Korean churches, and the number of Christians temporarily decreased as a result. Let me briefly outline the 105 people incident here. In 1911, Japan oppressed Joseon as part of its military rule, and the 105 people incident was fabricated to suppress the national movement. Under the pretext of the attempted assassination of Governor General Terauchi, national Enlightenment activists, including Shinminho and Christian leaders, were arrested. Using the On-Myeong-gun incident as a pretext, the Japanese government branded the Shinminho an anti-Japanese secret society and used violence and torture to coerce false confessions. They were charged with plotting to assassinate the governor, and 123 people were brought to trial. Of those, 105 people were convicted. While numerous patriots were imprisoned, this incident ultimately fueled the flames of the independence movement. Even under Japanese oppression, the national liberation movement continued. And independence activists implicated in this incident fled overseas, expanding the scope of resistance. Reference was made to History of Korean Christianity 1, The Origins and Fabrication of the 105 People Incident. Thus, the 105 People Incident can be seen as a significant event, marking the beginning of the Japanese imperialists' persecution of the Korean Church. The number 144,000 mentioned in the Book of Revelation is a number that appears at a specific point in time in the fulfillment of the prophecy. In 1910, the Korean Peninsula was forcibly annexed by Japan, and colonial rule began. The 105 People Incident of 1911 marked the beginning of Japan's oppression of Korea and its full-scale persecution of the Church. During this period, the number of Presbyterian church members in Korea reached 144,000. This is recorded in detail in the minutes of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church in Korea. The following year, on September 1, 1912, the First Presbyterian General Assembly in Korea was formed. Next time, we will examine the situation of the Korean Church, at this time in more detail. It was the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can continue listening to the lectures on Revelation and world history.